Oh, hi, podcast listeners. There's many ways you can listen to the Real Nerds podcast. You can subscribe on iTunes. You can also subscribe on Stitcher Radio. You want to send us a Twitter message? You can do that. It's so easy, at Real Nerds. Like us on Facebook, Real Nerds Podcast. You can visit our website, realnerdspodcast.com, where there'll be a lot of articles for you to not only read, but to listen to our previous shows. Do you like your stories told through pictures? Then you can also follow us at Real Nerds on Instagram. You can also call us, 720-6nerds5. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ming Chen from AMC's Comic Book Men. Listen, I have my own podcast. I have my own podcast studio. I don't really care about those. What I really care about is the Real Nerds podcast, the best podcast in the universe, in the multiverse, on all Earths, 616 and beyond. Listen to it. Subscribe right now, and listen to this episode. Listen to all the episodes, but especially listen to the one that I'm on. It might be the best. Thank you, guys.
Camera, action!
Well, a real nerd knows who shot, and a real nerd can follow the plot, and a real nerd can...
talk film! I'm sorry.
Take it outside.
Well, a real nerd knows who shot, and a real nerd can follow the plot, and a real nerd will give it all they got. Lights, camera, action! Real nerds!
This is the new and improved Real Nerds podcast. Every week, the Real Nerds see a new movie and we podcast our experience to the world. But with a new format, a new year, I decided to double down the fun, Brad. We are doing 2 films this week. The 355 and The Kingsman. And if you've listened to us over the last 10 years, you'd be, man, I got to listen to all their bullshit before I hear about what they think about the new movie. Oh, no, my friends, no. As a new era is upon us, Volume 11 of The Real Nerds has changed it again. Basically, what's going to happen now is we're going to review the movie at the beginning of the show. Then I'm going to talk about Hollywood's big comeback with the box office winner of the week. I'm going to touch on the big news story of the week. And then I'm going to do something a lot different. Is we have so many Real Nerds now, and our normal, segments I felt were getting stale. So now I'm not going to put any constraints on anybody. They can record their own and keep it at a 10-minute max, and they'll have their own 10 minutes to shine on the episode, because I'm a giving person, Brad, and that's what I do.
I appreciate it. You're such a benevolent leader.
Thank you. I do my best. Corinne, how are you?
I'm doing well. I think the new format is bullshit.
Wow.
Why?
Because you came up with it, Ryan.
Oh, well, that's not entirely true. I had ideas and I gave them to Brad, and we came up with it together. So
I bear some responsibility for this dumpster fire.
Yep, but I'll take the full brunt of it because I'm tough and Brad isn't. So,
and that's how real leaders work.
Exactly.
From the top down.
I take your idea, like Michael Scott did for the during the Willy Wonka episode, where I have this great idea, and then Corinne hates it, so then it's Brad's idea, and then all our listeners will like it. Then it'll be my idea again.
Listeners are David Wallace.
Yeah, I think that's how it works, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Take all the glory, share none of the blame.
Multi-million-dollar companies rise and fall on that ethos.
Right. How's everybody's week going?
Going all right so far.
Yeah.
Wow, that was insightful, Corinne. Thanks, Brad.
I don't know.
Yeah, something personal bad happened, but that's not movie related, so just be honest.
Sorry?
Yeah. But yeah, movie wise, pretty okay.
I was going to tell you, I haven't talked to you guys since Christmas, so you might be not surprised, but you might be interested to hear that some of the Christmas presents I got an office trivia game. So nice. We'll have to bust that out at some point. And I also got some Mandalorian themed playing cards. So those have been pretty cool.
Nice. Real Nerds Poker Night.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to get together and do a game night anyways. I have this Batman animated series board game that my wife refuses to play with me, so
Oh,
I
awesome.
made that part. I made that part up. I don't think she. I think she would play it with me. I just,
She's not gunning to do it.
Yeah. Wife.
Is she like in the room with you or something?
No. I was helping her. I was a little late coming on because we're redoing our hallway bathroom, and she couldn't get this old shelf down in it. So of course she needed a man to rip it out of the wall, and that's what I did.
One-handed.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, I just bit down on one of the shelves and pulled it out with my head. But no, these people put this shelf in there, and they didn't put anchors, but they made these really long screws, and they stripped the screws. So I was getting really pissed trying to get it off, so I just ripped it out of the wall, which, I got yelled at because she said, you're not going to have to repair the drywall. And I said, know your role. Fold that laundry. And then I was punched and I blacked out. So that's the real reason I'm late, is I talked back to my wife and she hit me in the face, and now I'm coming to and I feel good.
Very concerned about your domestic situation, Ryan.
Because violence is always the answer, especially against your spouse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if she would just stay in the kitchen with her feet soaking and cooking me dinner, we wouldn't have a problem, would we?
And we're back. That silence you heard was Ryan getting punched out and blacking out. And
she did just give me a middle finger, so I think that's a good sign. Yeah, that's what we do.
What else we do, Ryan?
My wife is very beautiful, and please put down the rolling pin. Put it down. Okay. Whew, that was close. Oh, she told me we have a gun. She wouldn't use a rolling pin, so that's good to know. Anyways,
good level of honesty you have there.
Oh yeah, I mean, she doesn't know the combination of my gun safe. I'm safe. This week on Real Nerds Podcast, we saw 2 movies. The first of which was the 355. Brad, do you recommend the 355?
Yeah, not really. It was pretty boring. The dialogue was pretty cringy, and I saw someone tweet somewhere that if it wasn't in theaters, it would have been like a perfect Netflix action movie. So yeah, not great.
Corinne, did you see the 355?
I did, and then I immediately forgot about it because this movie is so bland and generic and just kind of forgettable. It doesn't have any personality to it, and I guess that's what I would have wanted out of this movie.
Yeah, I don't recommend this either. I like the actors in it, and I swore I was watching a movie that I came in halfway through, because right away there's this relationship between Jessica Chastain's character and Sebastian Stan, and I'm like, am I missing something? Am I supposed to care about these people? Anyways, here's the trailer for the 355.
Remember that story that they told us about in training?
About George Washington's first female spy during the Revolution. They called her Agent 355 because they didn't want the world to know her real name. But her legacy lives on. We're the top agents from around the world. American, British, German, Colombian, Chinese.
But now we have a common enemy. They can start World War III from simple reach of their keyboard. So we need to join forces. It's like half the CIA's most wanted.
Always such a tough guy.
I'm not an agent, I'm a therapist.
They thought I would give you my secrets.
Do you have secrets? We put ourselves in danger so that others are not.
I'll handle the guns.
Are you in therapy?
I should be.
You're the best in the world at what you do.
You have cameras in your jewelry, comms in your earrings. You bump, I grab. The target is on the move.
You're not going in there alone.
We go together. I have a family.
I cannot do this anymore.
The bad guys are out there right now. You go home. You bring them with you. Are you under control?
Are you?
No.
Black cars, all black, everything.
I've got 4 more agents out on the street.
I counted 6, but thanks for the tip.
I like the new team.
We're the 355.
Okay,
So-
but I saw him being alive like a mile away.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that's not even. This is if you took a cliche out of every like spy thriller film, it was probably in this with really bad dialogue. And I mean, the premise is this woman played by Jessica Chastain named something
Maze or something like
Mace.
that.
Yep.
Mace. There we go. Really memorable movie. She's on this thing to Paris with the ultimate MacGuffin, this key that can make airplanes crash. And what the fuck is this?
Right out of the gate, they're having this scene with the terrorists, I guess, the cartel, and the his son or whatever makes the key, and he's bragging to the guy he's selling it to, like, yeah, my son is the only person who can use it. And then throughout the whole rest of the movie, everyone else can utilize it.
Right.
That's
That's
I
what I mean.
thought the
Like,
son said that he was the only one who could make another one. I don't know.
I don't know.
Based
see,
on
that's
how
a-
easily everyone else cracked it, I don't think anyone else couldn't do it.
But then there's parts where like it just. Do you feel like there was scenes missing, or do you think the script was so poorly plotted that that's what was plotted and it's just really shitty? Because I couldn't make a difference between them.
It definitely felt like it took a while to even get going. Like, yeah, that first third, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like pulling teeth sitting here and watching this bullshit. But then once you kind of got the pieces all together, it started getting a little bit better. Like that whole scene where they're in Morocco or wherever it is, like that was pretty good.
Yeah, there was moments, the part 2 where he was killing all the people they cared about. I'm like, oh, there's some, actual tension in this movie. But like getting there was a chore. And
like, why would someone who did that, like, why would you let them live? Like,
Yeah.
they're going to chase you down and try to stop you.
Yeah. But I mean, you see a movie that has Jessica Chastain, Penelope Cruz, Diane Kruger. You're like, oh, this movie should be really good because all those women kick ass. And they do in the film. But at the same time, one, they're horrible shots. They like can't shoot each other. They can't shoot the bad guys. Well, I mean, they can shoot like the stormtrooper type bad guys, but the actual bad guys, they can't. And then they just say the dumbest things. And then it's a lot of technical jargon that doesn't make any sense. And there's a lot of
technobabble.
Yeah. And there's a lot of times when everybody had guns pointed at each other's heads and they didn't shoot. I mean, they could have solved a lot of problems by just like killing that guy.
And also, as soon as they had the drive the first time, why even deliver it to anybody? Just destroy it.
I know.
Solve you a lot of problems.
Yeah, especially because they end up destroying it at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
a drive that can hack into any computer and disrupt any tech
Network.
device, like, you're just going to let that run around. Like, I wouldn't even give it to my own government. I'd be like, yeah, I should probably just delete this.
And then I don't get how they like make planes crash. Because couldn't like a pilot be say, well, I'm going to turn off the autopilot and I'm going to fly this motherfucker myself.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't.
Maybe they made the doors open up, or
I don't.
a landing gear fall down. I don't know.
Yeah, can you control that with like through Wi-Fi? I don't know.
Maybe.
Because I'm pretty sure the pilots have to do all that instrumentation by itself. I don't know. I'm not a pilot. I'm just guessing.
I mean, this had the level of writing of the A-Team, but the thing about the A-Team is it kind of has like a fun personality to it. Like, it's stupid, but it's like a kind of entertainingly stupid. Like it knows what it is. And this movie is so self-serious that there is no personality to it. And it's just like a lot of teeth-pullingly boring and trite scenes, except for a couple, which are okay. Like some of the acting is pretty good, but it's like I needed some fun in this movie because everybody is just so dour and sad and depressed all the time. And
well, that's why I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, because I mean everybody is a pretty good actor in it. And there's that one scene that you were talking about, and the scene where he was killing their families. I'm like, okay, that's entertaining. But then it's just spirals, you know? Like Sebastian Stan, bad guy, gets shot in the shoulder, and then they come back and he's the head of the FBI. They didn't know that he was a bad guy. But all these women in all these agencies, they're the ones who are ostracized. Wouldn't all their stories add up and his wouldn't make any sense and he'd be the guy going to jail? I don't get it.
He just murdered what's her name? Lupita Nyong'o's character, her partner, and like one of the few people who actually gets killed, and she just leaves and doesn't finish the job.
Yeah.
And he gets promoted, and they come back later and poison him, but still it's like but
it seems like the only reason he lived is to set up that scene at the end where all these women show up and you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, and for something that's supposed to be like a feminist movie, it really feels like Mace is really tied to his, she's really easily manipulated by him.
Yeah.
So
I think the fact that she doesn't have anybody else except for him, that's definitely not healthy. And I think that he tries to prey on that and, leverage that when he's like, oh, you should come with me because you don't have anybody else.
Yeah. No, it's just this.
I find it interesting that this movie was directed by a man.
Yeah. He also directed Dark Phoenix. So,
Yeah. That's what I was like, okay, I know why this is kind of not good.
But too, and it drives me crazy. So the dialogue scenes are, steady. And then when the action ramps up, it's super jerky and quick cuts. And I'm guessing because they're trying to get a PG-13 rating. But it gets really annoying watching films cut that way.
Yeah, the whole chase through Morocco, like they're following that one guy, like it just felt like it was the same sequence over and over again. Just like cut to here, cut to here, cut to this. It just went on for a while, just following the one guy and then people, weaving in and out through the crowd.
Yep. So 2022, not off to the best start with that film.
Well, that's supposed to come out last year.
Yeah, I think 2 years ago.
2 years
probably.
ago. So I'm not sure it would have fared any better back then. So
yeah, I don't know.
It's definitely a January type movie.
Yes, I agree. Well, I mean, it could be a February Liam Neeson season movie. But
wait, did you guys see the previews for that one movie that he's going to be in where he's a grandpa now? And I'm like,
Blacklight.
This is basically, he's basically just taken, but now he's the grandpa instead of the dad. And now I feel just so old.
It's funny you say that because I was rolling my eyes, but then when In the Air Tonight came on and he was killing people, now I'm interested. Because that song better be in the film when he's killing people. That's all I'm saying.
They used that in the Miami Vice film, 20 years ago.
But I think it comes out the same weekend as Jackass, so I think I'm going to see Jackass instead.
Hell yeah.
The second film we saw this week is a prequel, The Kingsman. Brad, do you recommend The Kingsman?
Not really. I was pretty bored. The trailer did not match up with the movie I saw. Not that it needs to, but I was just surprised about what it actually turned out to be. I thought the other two Kingsman movies were pretty fun, but this seemed more like a drama. But I did not get it.
Corinne?
I don't know. I guess if you're a fan of the Kingsman franchise, like if you're really invested in those other two movies, you would probably have more fun with it than just the average person. But I definitely am on the same boat as Brad. It is a very strange film. It shifts tone a lot, and it's very, very hard to pin down. But it's kind of fascinatingly fun in that way. I don't know. It's very hard to describe.
Wow, we're really boring today because I feel the same way. I was shocked that it was directed by Matthew Vaughn because
Yeah.
the first ones are a lot more fun and seem to have a lot more energy than this one. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's worse ways to spend a day at the movies. But some days I'm really glad for my Alamo season pass.
Yeah.
Here's the trailer for The Kingsman.
Our guest of honor, Rasputin.
I'm looking for someone who can help me gain an audience with the Tsar. Perhaps you can be of assistance.
I only make decisions when my stomach is full or my balls are empty.
Well, thank God dinner is being served. Small things can grow into big problems. We are the first independent intelligence agency. While governments wait for orders, our people take action.
Welcome to the club.
You're going to need a suit.
Very clever. Time to dance.
Stop fucking about!
Fuck this gentleman shite.
I'm gonna love killing you.
But we shall see.
So we're going to go back in time into the early 1900s with a lord who visits some sort of, are they in Africa at the beginning?
Yeah, they're in South Africa. It's the Boer War.
And he's part of the Red Cross, and his wife shockingly gets killed.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was the biggest telegraph in all of movie history.
I know.
See, this movie had the kind of campiness that I wish the 355 had. Like, there were some scenes that were played very seriously, but there were some scenes where it was just so, like, weird. It had a good energy to it, although a weird energy, and that was kind of fun. I don't know. It's a very weird movie.
He decides he's going to be a pacifist and protect his son, overprotect his son, I should say, who wants to sign up for World War One, and the conflict that spins from that. And I mean, so the Kingsman goes through a lot of conflicts in the early 20th century that affect the world and how they kind of play up to it. I mean, if you know the history, there is that fun element to it, you know, with Rasputin being poisoned and stuff like that. And I mean, then his son ends up going to World War One, and then gets protected, and then he changes places with a Scottish infantryman who's Aaron Taylor Johnson, and who I didn't know was in the movie. And
wasn't he one of the Kingsmen at the table at the end?
Yeah.
But
I mean, then it led to, actually, I thought my favorite scene in the whole movie was when they were trying to retrieve the spy stuff, and they met in no man's land, and it was shot really cool, kind of like a horror movie.
Silent knife fight. Yeah, there's like the 20-minute sequence where he's on the front lines, where this movie felt like it was a different movie directed by a different person.
Yeah.
Like it just turned into, like, I don't know, War Horse or something for a good 20 minutes before it went back to, you know, ha ha ha, isn't it hilarious? Like, Ray Fiennes is getting bumped in the head by a goat, sort of, you know, weird campiness.
Yeah.
So going into this movie, I thought his son was whoever Colin Firth is in the other movies. So leading up to that scene, I was like, oh, this is the rise of the Colin Firth character. And then he gets shot in the head. And I was like, what is happening? Like, this is just some random kid to the Kingsman? Like, his story ends here? Like, what a weird divergence for the story. I thought he was the one we were going to follow to the end. So
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that part
it was
was shocking.
definitely, it was, oh my gosh. Once he got back, I was like, oh, I guess he's going to make it out of the war alive. But then he gets killed by one of his own men. And that was just like, I mean, my jaw hit the floor when that happened.
yeah, it was pretty surprising.
Yeah, and it took a while for this movie to get started because it felt like a drama, like Brad said, for the first 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, full disclosure, I nodded off. I don't remember really what happened between Africa and No Man's Land. Definitely some
They went to Russia, and oh my gosh, that whole scene with Rasputin. I just can't imagine like that whole thing with Rasputin and that like awesome sequence where he's on the front lines are in the same movie.
Yeah,
Like, it's hard to wrap my head around that.
and too, like tonally, we've talked about it, but Rasputin cured his limp.
Yep.
With like rubbing it and sucking on it. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that weird scene was the only thing that was like, oh, this feels like the other Kingsman movies.
But there's like this weird mystical thing, with the Kashmir that's only on the top of this mountain in the middle of nowhere. And then he has to fight. I mean, I knew that guy was a bad guy too. Right
Did
away.
you?
Yeah, because when Charles Dance is in that.
I mean, I knew he was a bad guy. I did not think he was the shepherd, mostly because Matthew Good is not Scottish. So I was figuring it was going to be some other British actor I happen to know, because every British actor I know is in this movie. So
yeah, it's true.
No offense to Matthew Good, but that reveal of the villain was like the biggest disappointment of a villain reveal I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I fell asleep, but also like, I don't know. It just didn't seem like a big bad to me. Like Rasputin would have been a better reveal of a big bad, and that was so bizarre. It's like, oh, it's just another dude.
Pretty much.
I'm
earlier.
still trying to figure out the logistics behind that, because he was in England for a lot of the scenes, and then he's on some mountain somewhere for like with his little council of evil, and I'm like, travel across the continent is, it takes a long time and it's very expensive, and somehow you have the funds to do all that and the time to run like a goat farm on top of a giant mountain and be like a British officer. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I wish they would have just cast like David Tennant or somebody to be the shepherd, and then just, Matthew Good could have just been his underling the whole time.
Well, not even like actor, but I was expecting like Blofeld or, even like Hitler, which ends up showing up in post credits, but like it was just some other dude in disguise.
Well,
like,
that's what I mean. Like when he went outside, he gave like this look back through the porthole at Charles Dance's character. I'm like, oh, he's a bad guy. and then as it goes, oh, he's the bad guy. And yeah, then the top of this mountain ridge had really bad compositing. And CGI. Oh man, it's distracting.
That whole sequence where Ray Fiennes' character is like trying to parachute on and then climb his way up the mountain seemed like it took forever.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, when he's got Matthew Good like by the scarf and he's like leaning back over the edge, like that composite, I was just like, this is not lit accurately. How is this possible?
Yeah. And that's why I mean, even I'm more shocked because Matthew Vaughn is a really great filmmaker. I was a little disappointed in this one because it lost some energy, and it only popped up, when he's fighting Rasputin and he's ballet dancing while they're fighting. That was a fun callback because of how he moved when he came in. And that was the only time that I felt like that it was a Kingsman movie. But
when Rasputin was introduced and he glides in, I just remembered The Incredible Burt Wonderstone when Jim Carrey just floated around. Yeah.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's better than the 355, not by much, but
Yeah, it felt very very passive. Like shit. What was I gonna say?
Yeah,
Like there's a lot of downtime of Ray Fiennes being depressed, and you're just like, and all it takes is for someone to be like, "Hey, stop being depressed." He's like, "Okay."
Yeah, Jim Artian like kisses him, and I quit, sir. And he says, "No, I'm gonna shave and I'm good to go." Like, okay, sounds good. But yeah. Anyways, next week is Film Explosion 2021.
For real this time.
For real this time. Sorry we had to put it off, listeners. We had someone with close contact of COVID, and we didn't want anybody else to get COVID. I know if I get COVID, I totally screw over my whole work. So that will be for real this time. I don't know the day yet, but as soon as I line it up, I'll let everybody know on the Twitterverse. And now it's time for our new segment that I call Hollywood's Big Comeback. So for the fourth weekend in a row, Spider-Man No Way Home is leading the charge for the big Hollywood comeback, as it made $32.6 million, which brings
I went to see it again. So
yeah.
Some of that is for me. You're welcome.
I appreciate it, because that means I'll get another Spider-Man. That brings its domestic total to $668 million. And it's worldwide to 1.5 billion. Pretty impressive.
What if Sony was just like, actually, we're good. We're done with Spider-Man's forever.
And I do
this. Hate money.
No. But I also want to talk about something that's kind of gone under the radar. I mean, I'm not a fan of the first one, but Sing 2 is like kind of held its own, as it just cleared, and it's the first animated film and family film since the beginning of the pandemic. I think it's since what was the last Pixar movie in 2019?
Luca?
No, before Onward.
Oh, 2019.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank.
Maybe.
Coco.
Anyways,
2018.
It's the first animated film to make over $100 million. Slowly chipping away. I mean, it's pretty. If you look at its daily breakdown, it's pretty much the same almost every day, around $7 to $8 million.
If you go back in time, Sing, the first Sing, is actually the highest grossing movie to never hit number one.
Yeah, so, I think it made $180 something million.
270.
It's crazy. 170.
270.
I just don't understand how Illuminations can keep putting out just the bare minimum when it comes to filmmaking, and somehow their movies make more than some of these very, very well made, Pixar, Disney, all that.
I honestly think it's because something like Sing, I haven't seen it, but it's like a jukebox movie where you have, I read that Bono's actually a voice in it. So you have these really well-known songs, but with colorful animation, and the story is secondary. You just go there and oh, this is fun. I would say the same thing about Bohemian Rhapsody, which I think the movie is fucking garbage, but everybody knows those songs, so it helped carry it to $1 billion. Just me.
Yeah, and to be fair, they're not poorly made. A lot of people put a lot of great effort in them,
they
but
look fantastic.
They're just unappealing to, I guess, our audience.
They're middle of the road when it comes to animation in my eyes, but I mean, I would be willing to see it because I saw the previews enough that I'm like, I'd give it a shot.
Yeah, I might wait till it's on Peacock because it's a Universal film. Because even, I like to take Kellen to movies, and I said, "Hey, buddy, is there a movie you want to see? I think that Sing movie's out." And he said, "I don't want to see that." That's why you're my kid. We watched The Meg last night instead.
Nice.
Keeping it real. And that's the big Hollywood comeback. Next week, I think is going to be really interesting because Scream 5 comes out and they're pegging it at about 50 million. We'll see if it hits that. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if it got more. Because, I mean, what else, other than Spider-Man, like, what else is out to compete with it? And Spider-Man's, what, like a month and a half old at this point?
Yeah. Next week will be this week will be Spider-Man's 5th week in release. So, I'm interested because I love that franchise. I think Scream 4 is really underrated as a horror film. So, we'll see that. That'll be our film after Film Explosion. And now, the big news story of the week.
It's real news.
The big news story is there's some deaths that Zach's going to share on his segment, I believe. So I'm going to let him do that. He's a lot better at it than I am. But I'm just going to talk about that Morbius has been moved again. And I just laughed because there's this timeline that I don't know who put it out on Twitter, but it's a picture of Jared Leto and it says, "Here we go." And it's from 2019. And by the time it wrapped and the time it's been delayed 6 times, Spider-Man No Way Home was shot, released in that whole time frame. So I think it's kind of funny. And it makes me think that it's not that good.
Yeah,
that Sony has.
I mean, it's got Jared Leto in it, so probably not.
And I think people were thinking that it had something to do with Omicron surge, which they're saying it doesn't. They don't want to dip into Spider-Man's profits. And Uncharted comes out, I think, was supposed to come out 2 or 3 weeks after it. So I think it's going to be the 3 months of Tom Holland coming up, and that's fine. It got moved to April. I don't think too many people care. I don't know.
I mean, I'm really tired of seeing that trailer, so the sooner it
True.
comes out, the better.
That.
Yeah. I guess that we should also mention Turning Red. The next Pixar movie got kicked to streaming only, which it's weird that they'll release Encanto, but they won't, which is their in-house animation, but they won't let Pixar, which makes me suspicious that they are trying to marginalize Pixar and maybe absorb them.
Yeah, and it's weird too because this is the 3rd straight one, and I read an interview with the animator at Pixar, and they said they're starting to get really disheartened working because, one, their stuff is incredible. I mean, Soul is an incredible film, and it should have been in theaters.
That would have been amazing.
But I don't understand, because they say it's to make money off streaming. I keep on saying make money off streaming. How do you quantify that when you pay a subscription for it monthly?
And it's not like the Pixar movies are with that like premium access. Like you have to pay $30 extra, like they did with Cruella. Like, no, it's just included.
So I don't know how they quantify, I guess by watching. But then I read that Netflix counts it as a watch if you watch 3 minutes of anything. So that's stupid. So a couple shakeups, and I mean, Turning Red looks fun. It reminds me a lot of Pixar trailers, where the trailers are Pixar trailers, where it's okay, and then the movie ends up being incredible. So we'll see. So I hope everybody liked our new format for Real Nerds. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the individuals and their own unique take on episode 521, right, Brad?
Yep, 521,
hey,
volume 11.
521. So thanks for listening, and I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the nerds. Bye.
Hey nerds, Corinne here for a new segment that I'm going to call Showtime, because, you know, that's what I call it on the website, and we're just going to keep the name. I am going to be doing Catching the Classics still, but I'm going to kind of alternate between Catching the Classics and Showtime, which is just going to be me talking about, you know, something cool I've been watching recently. But I just figured I shouldn't do a Catching the Classics every week, because I will eventually run out of classics to watch. So also, there are some really cool things I've been watching lately, and I want to share them with all of you. So tonight I'm going to be giving you a review of a movie I just saw called Belle, Belle. And this is a movie I have been waiting for probably a year. I remember watching the trailer, seeing it, thinking, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. I need to watch this now. And of course, it's a Japanese animation film. So of course it's released everywhere but America. And finally tonight we had the US premiere. Went to a special screening of it. It was really cool. Really good energy. Everybody there was really excited to see it. So the premise, again, it's not Makoto Shinkai, but it's, crap, I forgot the director's name. It's the same guy who did Mirai, Oscar-nominated Mirai, which is a fabulous movie. Everybody should go check it out. But it's the same director who did that. And the idea is that there's this girl whose mother has died, and she has lost a lot of confidence in herself, and she was really talented in singing, and she hasn't been able to sing since her mom died. But she gets wrapped up into this virtual world called U, just the letter U. And the idea is, like, you can go into the virtual world and you can kind of become whoever you want to be. You can start over. And so she eventually becomes this kind of, like, singing sensation on this virtual, in this virtual world. And then there's, like, some shenanigans going on, and there's this, like, beast creature who, like, they have, like, kind of like a connection, and it's like Beauty and the Beast meets Ready Player One. And admittedly I haven't seen Ready Player One, but it's just kind of like that same basic premise of, like, some ordinary person who goes into the virtual world and kind of becomes famous. And it has a lot of, like, kind of social commentary about, social media and internet, like, culture, and just, like, how negative people can be on there sometimes. And so like I said, I've been waiting for this movie for a year, and so I think maybe I hyped it up a little bit too much for myself, or I thought it was going to go in a different direction. So when it got to the end, I guess I was like, I was not prepared for the direction that this went, which it was a bad thing for me, but it wasn't like that made the movie bad. It was just, I need to adjust my expectations. So I definitely want to watch this again. If you are in Denver, it's supposed to be playing at Denver Pavilions. I don't know whenever this podcast is coming out, but maybe it will still be playing at Denver Pavilions whenever, this podcast gets posted. So, if you're in the Denver area, check it out. If not, it might be playing at a theater near you. Check it out. It's called Belle, Belle. It is supposed to be out in English dub and English subtitles. I saw it in the English sub, but I really want to see it dubbed over because, just a different perspective on things. And sometimes there were a couple of comedic scenes, and, I always say, like, comedy, I think, plays better when you don't have to read it. So I highly recommend it. The animation's pretty, like, the 3D world. I forgot to mention that the alternate universe is all 3D animation, and the real world is 2D animation. So it kind of separates the worlds that way. It's very cool, very stylized. So, the 3D animation was beautiful. The 2D animation looked pretty good. There are a lot of scenes where it's, like, by a river, and, like, the effects on that were really nice. But yeah, it's a really well-made movie, and the music in it is beautiful. That's one of the reasons why I want to see it in the English dub, is I know they worked really hard to dub those songs over into English, to translate them, and to, bring in a voice actress who sounded identical to the Japanese one. So, very excited about it. I definitely want to see it again now that I know what to expect, and I've adjusted my expectations. So anyway, I don't know what rating I would give it, but I give it a very high recommendation. So everybody check out Belle. And next time I'm on, I will be talking for Showtime. I will be tackling my younger sister's favorite anime, which I've never seen, but she recommended this show to me, and she's like, you've got to watch it, and I've been watching it. So far, it's been really good, but I'm going to talk about that next time. And then after that, I will be doing a Catching the Classics about a Tom Cruise movie I've never seen. So stay tuned, and thanks for listening.
And now it's time for Brad's Exhibition Etiquette, your weekly guide of tips and tricks to help you not ruin Brad's fun at the movies.
This week's lesson, whispering is still talking. It's still distracting, and unless you're having a medical emergency, there's nothing you need to vocalize that can't wait until after the movie. So zip it.
Hey film buddies, follow me around Denver.
The Esquire Midnights are back starting January 28th with The Room. So that's pretty exciting. And then Saturdays are going to have the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but also going forward, Mad Max Fury Road, Akira, Princess Mononoke are all in the lineup. So yeah, I'm excited to go back to Esquire Midnights for the first time in like 2 years. So check that out.
Hello, Real Nerds listeners. This is Zach. Judging by the audio quality, you can tell that this assignment is coming in late. But I did want to touch on some of the recent passings that we had within the business. First of all, we lost Bob Saget not too long ago, a couple days ago. The death is still unconfirmed as to the cause of it, but Bob, as we all know, was primarily known as the dad on Full House, but he was also a comedy legend in his own right, very much known for being far dirtier than his reputation as the Full House dad preceded it. Needless to say, his role as Danny Tanner was not necessarily his one on the road. He was also the narrator on How I Met Your Mother and America's Funniest Home Videos, and a real staple for a lot of people in their childhood. So to lose him is obviously a great big deal for people. I myself enjoy a little movie he did called Farce of the Penguins, which is quite a send-up of March of the Penguins. If you ever get a chance to see it, it's quite aggressively outrageous. We also lost the legendary Sidney Poitier, an actor who broke many of the color barriers in this country when it came to actors in Hollywood, with such films as To Sir with Love, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, In the Heat of the Night. I'll tell you, the big thing that I remember him for, the first things I ever saw him do was actually Stir Crazy with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, which he directed. And you know, I really like thinking of him as that director, like he was a person who was able to hold himself behind the camera as well as in front of it. But obviously, films like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and In the Heat of the Night do really pack a punch to this day. And similar to Eddie Rochester Anderson, Poitier had to kind of concede a lot of victories for his progression in the industry. There was criticism thrown his way at his time, but he was nevertheless a legend in his own right that made it possible for a lot of things to happen and a lot of bridges to be gapped and or gaps to be bridged, and we would be able to move forward and evolve and grow. His accomplishments outweigh any setbacks he would have had. And one of his last films has grown into a great cult status, Sneakers, from 1992. So, you know, you got to give it up for a man who lived it to the fullest and never took that for granted. And the last we have is Peter Bogdanovich, who was a gentleman that many people will know as the director of What's Up, Doc?, Paper Moon, The Last Picture Show. And for me, though, he was like a film historian for the most part. He was a man who, yes, his films are influential and they're game changers for the American New Wave, but I learned a lot from Peter Bogdanovich, whether it was about Hitchcock, Orson Welles, or any other director that he so choose to speak about. In fact, his knowledge about Orson Welles has been very influential in shaping the way I perceive Orson Welles. His work with interviewing Hitchcock was very influential to the Shamley Silhouette. So without the work of Peter Bogdanovich interviewing all these figures, it would be it would be impossible for us to be able to gauge how we would receive the material because he grabbed some of those last interviews with those guys. And he was very influential in getting The Other Side of the Wind finished, which is something that he worked towards nearly the end of his life, as we now know it, to see that film finished, Orson Welles' final film. And he also made a movie called Targets with Boris Karloff as his debut feature, which is a very unique movie that I highly recommend people check out if you want to see one of Boris Karloff's last performances. It's great. It's a tense little thriller that I think everybody can enjoy. It has some touchy subject matter from the way it's initially perceived, but just trust me when I say it's worth a watch. And then, I don't know, for this new form of Real Nerds, it's all kind of weird and it's all kind of strange, and I've actually been doing a lot of what we've been watching in the form of watching a Golden Age Hollywood movie a day. But instead of talking about all the titles for right now, and you can check out my progress on Instagram if you'd like, but I wanted to talk about the fact that I've rewatched Fun and Fancy Free, The Adventures of Ichabod, Mr. Toad, and now tonight, Melody Time, with my girlfriend over FaceTime. And it's been really cool to, when we can't be together at the current moment, to watch those movies with her on Disney Plus and to see them through her eyes, because not all of them she's seen. And just watching those reactions in real time is quite a treat. We watched Fun and Fancy Free last week together in person, and it was a wonderful time where she was giggling along to Bongo the Bear and Mickey and the Beanstalk, and I just got to geek out and share all my trivia. So it was quite a special thing to share. And so those were the kind of the things that kind of helped me through a very rough week. So I promise I'll have something a little bit more polished and professional next time after Filmsplosion, when we return to the regular new rebooted version, and I will surely be there for the review. But until then, Real Nerds listeners, I'll take it back over to whoever's going to do the next segment. I hope to God it's James. I miss James. But if it's Brad, that'll be just as great, because Brad's pretty fucking cool. All right, guys, take care. Bye.
It's Ryan! Thanks for listening, and I want to thank all the nerds who contributed this week. Brad and Corinne, thanks for joining me on this movie journey this week.
Good to be on again. Good to talk to you guys.
Yeah, good hearing from you. It's been a while, Corinne.
I know. I haven't talked to you guys since Spider-Man.
I mean, that's all that really matters is Spider-Man, so that's cool. I'm somewhat of a movie fan myself. So yeah, Brad, thanks again as always.
No problem.
And again, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Well, a real nerd knows who shot. A real nerd can follow the plot. And a real nerd will give it all they got. Lights, camera, action. Real nerds.
Thanks for listening to Real Nerds Podcast, a Nebulous Visions production. Stream or download episodes, read articles at realnerdspodcast.com. Stream us on Apple or Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. Follow us on Facebook, Real Nerds Podcast. Twitter and Instagram, @Real Nerds. Watch us on YouTube, Real Nerds Podcast. Email us at realnerds@gmail.com. Call us at 720-6nerds5. Thank you to Sparks Mandrill, Mike at Plan 9 Studios, and Bolognium for all of our groovy theme songs. And that's how you fucking do it.